You are listening to the Rewrite the Rules podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Beth.
I'm Natalie.
And I'm Harriet.
Rewrite the Rules podcast releases a new episode every Monday, and we're all about helping you achieve a happier and healthier relationship with food and your body.
We're real people with real life experiences, so you can expect us to be keeping it raw and real in each and every episode.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you use, and share the love with a friend that you think will love this podcast.
Now, let's get on to the episode. So hello everyone. Just before we get this episode started, I just want to give a disclaimer. We are talking about calories, we are talking about weight loss, all of those things. And if you find this triggering, then please step away from this episode. You know, we have lots of other episodes for you to enjoy. We completely understand if this one isn't for you, but we just wanted to give this trigger warning as these topics are going to be spoken about. But if you are going to listen, really hope you enjoy. So hello guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Rules. And today we have a very special guest who is with us and who I'm extremely excited to have on the episode today. And this is someone who I know extremely well. And we actually met, I was trying to think of this, and I feel like maybe it was like 5 years ago, but I truly consider her a very special and good friend. And a lot of you listeners may know her as abbygfitness, as she goes by on her social media. But I'm so happy to have you here, my darling, and welcome to the podcast, Abby.
Hello, you okay?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I am good, thank you. Very, very good. Excited to be on the podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to be here. It feels like we've wanted you on the podcast for so long. So
yeah,
to be able to have you here, yeah, I'm so excited. And yeah, I mean, I think that we should just get straight into it. You know, I'm going to be asking you lots of questions. And, you know, I feel like I know a lot about your journey, obviously. But yeah, I just really want to get an insight into the journey that you've been on, obviously for our listeners to be able to hear, you know, talk us through your relationship with food and how that's changed and evolved, and your relationship that you've had with your body, how that's changed and evolved. So Abby, you told me that you didn't mind what I ask, and yes, we're like that with each other anyway. We'll literally talk about everything and anything. So, you know, she was like, it doesn't matter what you ask me. And I was like, this is amazing. So, yeah, more importantly, I just want you to share your story, because I know how important and helpful it's going to be for all of our listeners out there. So, yeah, shall I just get on with asking the first question? Yeah, I'm just excited. So the first question I wanted to ask is, can you explain how you first discovered, for our listeners, that you had binge eating disorder, and kind of what the experience was like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I think I was about 18 years old when I thought, you know, my relationship with food wasn't the same as everyone else. It started when obviously I wanted to lose weight, and I thought the best thing to do was to, you know, cut carbs, do tons of cardio, and think that was the way. Obviously your body will soon catch up, and so will your brain. So I thought, you know, I just kept going, and obviously I lost a lot of weight in such a short amount of time. And then one day I remember when like my family was having a get together, and I literally saw so much food as bad, like good and bad. That's how I saw it. So one time I went to a family gathering and we had pizza, and it was the first time I had pizza in such a long time, because I was restricting myself for so long. And I remember we had a takeaway, and it was like in my head I was like, this is the only opportunity I've got to have this. I can't have it tomorrow, and this is bad food. So I remember when I got it, I had one slice and that was it. I was like, oh my god, like I've mucked up. So that's all I thought in my brain. So I was like, I need to eat everything now, because I can't eat everything tomorrow. So I had the pizza and I was like, well, I might as well eat everything that's in the kitchen, because I can't have it tomorrow, and this is the only opportunity I've got. So I'll raid the cupboards. And then after that all happened, I was like, oh my god, I feel so bad. The guilt come in, and I was like, this isn't normal, because I'm looking at everyone else enjoying their pizza and they haven't got the urge to want to eat everything. And I felt really weird, like I felt like an alien, because it's like, if my family saw me do that, they'd be like, you've literally just had a pizza, why are you now eating the whole cupboard? Why are you going to having some cereal now? Because you know, you should be full up from that pizza. And I just felt so alone. But that's when I first felt like it started. And then because of that, I thought, right, let's restrict tomorrow, like even more, and let's do extra cardio. And then as soon as it got to the weekend again, that's when the weekends sort of started. Like every weekend I think, right, we will have a takeaway, but then that takeaway would lead me to binge. So it was always the takeaway that started the binge. Like I think a lot of people mistake overeating with binge eating, but binge eating is so different. It's
so
like
different.
Yeah, and I think that's where when we talk about it a lot, don't we? Like when we was at work, like some people just don't understand like the difference. And like, yeah, like we've obviously spoke loads of times before of like, and it's so nice to actually have someone that understands like binge eating and like that out of controlness, and you don't feel alone then, because you know when you talk about it and you say, oh, I can't stop eating, like I've eaten this, I've eaten a whole packet of this and that. When you actually talk to someone that understands, it's just so nice. And that's why I thought, you know what, I need to share this, because I'm this Instagrammer, like posting all my workouts on Instagram. But if you really saw the true side of what I was going through, I think it will really help people.
Yeah, definitely. And like it is, I remember when we were at work and I think we were speaking, or maybe I explained to you my relationship with food, and like it was quite early on into us meeting, but you know, I'll literally tell anyone my whole life story. And I think that's kind of when I saw like it's like you wanted to share something as well at that point. I literally distinctly remember it. And then from then, I think we then started talking, and then it was like this relief of, oh my God, like you actually get what I'm saying. And I don't think really either of us knew, or maybe I did. I think I knew I had an issue with food, but I hadn't met anybody who had or who was going through the same thing as I had went through.
Yeah.
So then when you spoke about what you were going through with food, and I was like, oh my God, maybe there is actually a name for this. And it was instantly like, yeah, from then, I feel like you say, when you find someone that isn't just like, oh, you know, I ate, you know, quite a lot of biscuits and God, I feel awful. It's such a different feeling to binge eating. Binge eating is like a switch. It's like you're out of your body.
Yeah.
And it's like uncontrollable.
I think as well, it's because we used to work weekends together, and it always used to be on a Sunday. I used to come into work and that was after a binge, and I used to feel horrendous on a Sunday, because you know that feeling when you wake up after a binge and you feel like you feel like you can feel the grease from outside your body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how uncomfortable you feel. I feel like my face used to puff up. I'd feel so uncomfortable. And I remember I used to always come into work on a Sunday and I'd feel so down. My customer service was probably awful, because you know when you just feel so gross in yourself, you don't want to talk to anyone.
You don't want to talk to no one.
Yeah. So my customer service on a Sunday was probably awful, because I was so down in myself. And that's the thing, it affects you so much. I don't think people realise, when you don't feel good in yourself or confident in your body, when you struggle with body dysmorphia as well, it really does affect your mood and how you are with people around you. Like, so that's why I think we got on so well, because we both understood each other.
Definitely. No, I agree. And like, yeah, I think it was like, as much as it's a horrible thing that we were going through, to be able to have each other in that situation, I feel like for me was majorly helpful, because it does, it makes you feel alone and it makes you feel even more guilt. But my next question that I want to ask is, do you feel that having a platform on social media caused any of these issues that you experienced with food and how you viewed your body at that time?
To be honest with you, like I was looking at this question and I thought, do you know what? I don't actually think it really came from social media. When I was going through it, social media wasn't as big as it is now. So so I feel like it was more who I saw around me rather than who I saw online. Like I remember where I was working at the time, and the hairdressers were all slim, and I admired the way they looked, and I'd think, why don't I look like that? And like they used to, you know, like when you get jealous of people's how they eat and that they don't put on weight, and it's like, how do you? But then it's probably because they don't have an issue with food and they don't binge. And I never really thought that at the time. I think, how comes you can eat chocolate every day? But it's because I didn't think you was allowed to do that. And I would always get jealous of these people around me. And I think that's how it stemmed and how it got worse, was really people around me. And then obviously I got into Instagram, but I wouldn't say it was social media that it stemmed from. It was more the people around me at the time and my environment. I obviously, when I used to work at the hairdressers, I'd have people say, don't eat carbs and who I used to work with, and I'd always admire their body, and I'd be so jealous that I couldn't look like that. And that's, I would say, how it all started.
So it's more of an influence from directly people around you, because I know I felt that way as well, especially working at the gym. Like when we were reception,
I was the same, yeah.
Everyone's coming in and you're constantly looking at these bodies that you are jealous of.
Yeah, I used to cry in the gym sometimes. I remember I used to cry. I used to think, why can't I look like that? I'm doing the training. I am eating really well, because at the time I was like, well, I am eating well because I was restricting myself in the week. So in my head, I was doing fine. And for some reason, it's in my brain, on the weekend, the calories didn't count because I was good Monday to Friday. That's what I had in my head. So it's why am I not making progress? But it was because I was binging. So my binges were probably around 5,000 calories, or even more than that every weekend. So it's that's obviously going to cause me more harm than if I just allowed myself to eat a little bit more in the week. But yeah, it's mad when you're in that cycle.
100%. So my next question is, when came the point for you that you felt enough is enough and you decided to seek help to recover? And second part to that question is, what was the main thing that helped you recover from binge eating disorder?
So when I hit rock bottom, it was when lockdown happened in 2020. So obviously my way of undoing my binges was to exercise, and all I knew at that time was going to the gym. So I would be heavily training after my binges. And obviously when lockdown happened, the gyms shut.
Yeah,
and
I
never
remember how scared you were. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. And I didn't know anything other than the gym. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to do. So that stressed me out massively. And I thought to myself, if I keep binging and I can't go to the gym, I'm literally just going to gain weight. And that was my biggest fear. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't continue to binge how I am every weekend and not go to the gym, because obviously that was my way of, it being okay. I don't know. It's really weird. I thought it was okay to binge if I exercise because I'm just undoing it. So it was a horrible cycle anyway. But I was like, well, the gyms are gone, so I can't do this anymore. And I never forget it, because at the time I was I'm still living with my brother, and I would hide the fact that I was binging when he was living with me. So obviously when I was binging, I would obviously hide stuff in my bedroom. I'd have wrappers, and I would literally hide empty wrappers. I would, hide myself in the kitchen when he was having a shower or something, quickly eat. And it's horrible, isn't it? Because you have anxiety if they catch you. You literally have my anxiety was so high all the time, because
and it almost adds to the binge. Do you not think it almost makes the binge even worse, because you're trying to do it as quickly as you can, and it ends up being this even bigger binge because you're worried that they're going to walk in on you.
Yeah, it's literally a panic. And it's when, I don't know about you, but when I was going through my binging, I would be eating so quickly that I don't even think my hunger was everywhere, because I don't even think I gave myself a chance to say, look, you're full now, because I was just shoving the food in. And I remember if my brother would walk in, I would hide it behind the microwave, hide whatever I was eating, or just saying it's just silly. Or I would worry that he would be able to smell, say if I was cooking toast, I would be so worried that he would hear it or smell it, because he'd be like, Abby, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, the last time I binged was, I remember I used to binge quite a lot on cereal. I never forget it. It was my brother's cereal as well. I used to eat other people's food as well when I would binge, and it was Rice Krispies. And I thought, I can't let him see that I'm eating this. So I brought the whole box to my bedroom, and then I went a separate way to the kitchen to get the milk. And then I ate the whole box of this cereal, and I thought, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then I was like, the gyms have shut. I've just eaten a whole, my body, I feel awful. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I remember I literally broke down on that evening. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So then that was the night I broke down. And the next day, was the day I decided to speak up, and that was the main thing I would say that helped me recover from binge eating. If I hadn't have spoken out, I would not be where I am today. Like I truly believe that, because if I didn't express what was going on, I generally would not be where I am today. Like, you know, nearly 3 years later, and I have binge free. It's actually crazy to say that, but yeah, I was like, right, I need to tell my mum about this. I was so embarrassed as well. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not easy, because when you tell someone you have a binge eating, that they're like, what? Like, or when you try and explain to them what it is, and like the fact that you can't stop eating, they don't really understand. They're like, well, why can't you just stop eating, or why can't you just, you know, not do that? And it's not just, you can't just
switch it off.
Yeah, you can't. And I think like my mum sort of knew I had a problem anyway, because I used to struggle, obviously, with binge eating comes along body dysmorphia as well, and I would always again ring her up after my binges, but I wouldn't tell her about the binge. I would just tell her the fact that I hated my body. And it must be horrible for my mum to hear that, but she never used to really know what to say. But now she understood why, because it's like, I was eating, binging, and then I got professional help. So I had a coach. She really helped me. She really helped me understand the importance of like eating enough food. As soon as I, you know, stopped restricting myself and started, you know, implementing these things that I would binge on through the week, that absolutely massively helped me. So for instance, I used to, you know, binge on protein bars a lot. So I wouldn't allow myself to have protein bars for some reason in the week, but then as soon as it got to the weekend, I would eat pretty much a whole box of protein bars. But then as soon as, you know, my coach said, look, have a protein bar once a day, in my head I'm thinking, oh, but I can't have a protein bar on a Monday, I can only have it on a Saturday. It's crazy. But it's like, but Monday is the same as a Saturday. Like, I don't know why
your body doesn't know what day of the week it is.
No. So I was like, and obviously having one protein bar a day rather than 20 on a Saturday, surely that's going to be less harm to my body. So I started having one protein bar a day, and then it got to Saturday. It's like, well, I don't need a whole box of protein bars because I have one every day.
Yeah.
And then slowly I was implementing these foods. So like Lotus spread, like I used to have like Lotus spread. Well, I still do actually to this day, because Lotus spread is like life. I have Lotus spread on my bagel and on my oats. So what helped me is like having things like on foods that I felt already safe with. So obviously oats, I'm not scared to eat oats, so I'd have oats with Lotus spread, so I'd add the Lotus spread in with it. So then, you know, I wasn't like stressed or anything, because I knew that, you know, I was having my oats and I had some Lotus spread with it. So that also helped me a lot. Also, another thing that really helped me was just making sure I was having something before I went to bed, like something sweet. I know, like, so I have my yogurt bowl before I go to bed. That always used to help me. I remember at the start of my recovery, like I said, I used to also binge on cereal. I would have some cereal in with my yogurt, and that used to help me. It's just basically just not restricting myself and not having that mindset of like, I need to lose weight. Like we always say when we speak, it's like trying to lose weight and trying to recover from binge eating is just two things that just can't, you just can't, because you're just going
to choose what's more important.
Yeah. And obviously, like, as you can see throughout my journey, it's just not it being your main focus, and being okay with the fact that it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take some time.
Yeah. And I think it's we always talk about, it's a very tricky topic to get your head around, and everything to do with weight loss and recovery. And it's kind of like, it's going to go either way. You know, during recovery, you may gain weight. During recovery, you may lose weight, but that has to stop being the priority, and you have to put your health first, and whatever will be. But probably what you feel is going to happen, or you have this like massive thing in your head that it's going to, I don't know, your body is completely going to change. It is going to change, but not as sort of, I don't know, in this disastrous way that we think it is. I don't know, that's kind of what I feel like happened during recovery, and I'm sure that's what you felt. But yeah, the next question I kind of want to ask is, do you feel like it was an easy process? And obviously I know kind of how the journey went, but also, you know, if you can talk about what happened, because I know that lockdown was an experience in which it kind of went the other way for you.
Yeah, so definitely was not easy. Like recovery, I've always said it, is not straight lines. So it's not like, right, I'm going to stop binging now and then that's it, never binge again. At the start of recovery, like it was every weekend still, like I was still binge, but I just noticed it get less and less, but it was still challenging. And there's always going to be bumps along the way. There's always going to be tests. And I feel like the tests are what make you recover. Like if I didn't go through the tests and like being triggered, I wouldn't be where I am today. So you have to go through those triggers and go through those bumps to then get to where you are, because I think that's what makes you learn. And like if I did binge, I think, well, where did that come from? Did I restrict that day? Did I do too much cardio, or did I punish myself? And then that's when you learn. You're like, well, okay, well, next time I'll do this different. And then that's how you continuously like learn and grow.
Yeah, and get strength for like the next time you face something just as difficult, or you face that thing again, then you can take that experience that you've learned and it can almost make that situation a bit more like bearable. You know what to do.
Exactly. Also, like obviously, like you said, I did go the other way, and that was probably one of the hardest times of my life. Like I think that was probably on par or even worse than going through binge eating. So obviously I'd recovered from binge eating, but I got in this, I don't know, like this mindset. Like I was so scared of my binge body because I did lose weight. I just lost too much weight, but I couldn't see it because all I could see in the mirror was my old body and my binge body. And I had so much fear of going back to that binge body that I kept under eating because I could not see how small I was getting. And obviously Natalie and I worked together, and I feel like when I returned back to work after lockdown, I
didn't even recognize you.
No, I know. And I feel like it was a big shock because I looked so different, didn't I? Like
your whole frame. I remember you walked in the door and it actually took my breath away a bit. I didn't even know who you were. From behind, I wouldn't have been able to tell it was you. Your whole frame,
my legs as well,
had changed. Yeah. And I think not seeing each other for that whole time and then going back to work and seeing you, I was like, wow. Yeah, it was.
Yes, it's crazy. But it's as I say, I couldn't see myself, and I was very in denial as well. Like I thought, because at the time I had like shredded six pack and I thought that was all I wanted in my life. But when I think back to it, it's like what I was doing to myself I was in such a bad place with food. I feel like probably the worst place I was with food, because when I was going through binging, I wasn't really like into calories, or I didn't really know anything. I think that's another reason why I struggled with food, because I didn't really know a lot about food. But when I was struggling with, like when I was my smallest, I was literally concerned about everything. So I was looking at 3 calorie differences and I was like, I can't have that because that's 3 calories more. I would be scared to have squash twice a day because I think, well, there's 2 calories in squash, so I can't have that twice. I can only have 1 bowl of that. And I would be spending hours in the shops comparing calories to things, and I would be scared to eat veg. Like I was fearful of veg because I was scared the veg would bloat me out. I was just on eggshells all day, every day. Like I would go to Costa, and if I saw they put a little bit too much milk in my coffee, I would chuck it away. Like it was just not a good life to live. And obviously at the same time, I was like just literally doing HIIT twice a day, every day, just in denial. And I just remember like being in the gym, and I used to see these people look at me, and I used to think I think it's like you know, but you don't know, because I would be wearing joggers and stuff. I knew I was getting small, but at the same time, I didn't want anyone to tell me. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. And I think there's so many things that I noticed, and I just
remember with the steps as well, when I was
steps.
I'll get my steps in. And you were like, Abby, and I was panicking, wasn't I? Do you remember?
I literally remember your mum being there and you were talking about your steps, and I turned to your mum and I said, do you not think that she's slim enough? Like, we should be telling her that she don't need to do steps? And your mum completely knew as well. But that's the thing, when you're in that place, I know that it's so difficult because you can't be told. And even things that I do so remember, like I remember there was a time at Christmas and I was like, so what are you going to eat this Christmas? And you said fruit, and we went to Marks and Spencer's, and you spent so long picking fruit, and I was like, that, you were like, that's going to be my snack on Christmas. And I was like, what, not a tin of celebrations? And like, obviously I know you're vegan, so you couldn't have things like that. But like, I knew something wasn't right because of how much time you were taking to pick. And it was like, even you picking veg, it was like, you picking sweets.
I spent hours trying to choose veg. I remember I used to go to that M&S and I would spend ages just picking veg, because I was looking at the calories on the different stir fry packages, and I would think, oh, like I was so concerned about calories in veg and then like fruit as well. But I remember that Christmas was probably one of the worst Christmases I've ever experienced. Like, there's binge eating at Christmas and there's restriction at Christmas. I think that obviously neither one's worse than another, but that Christmas was awful because I didn't even eat that fruit because I was too scared to eat it. I was too scared to eat fruit because I was too scared to come away from. I thought that if I changed anything that I was eating, like I had to eat the exact same thing to the point, like even water, like I was like, if I don't drink the same amount of water every single day, I'm gonna look different. Like, I thought anything I changed, my body would change. And it's like, I was just in my own head, and I thought, oh, if I do anything different, I'm going to go back to my binge body. And it's weird though, because it didn't trigger me to binge. Like, I didn't have binging anymore. I was too scared to eat in general. I wouldn't dream of binging because I wouldn't even allow myself to eat, so let alone binge. So like, actually that Christmas, I remember I didn't binge, but I definitely, like, I had another protein bar, and I remember I felt so guilty. I remember putting it on my Instagram, like, oh my God, like I had another protein bar and I felt really bad.
That was crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, really bad. So how I sort of got out of that little wobble, that's what I always used to call it, like a wobble in my recovery. Like, I recovered from binge eating, and then I had this big bump in my road where I went the complete other way. It's like a complete different obsession that I had. The way I recovered from that actually was, obviously the gyms reopened, and I was with someone at the time, and unfortunately, like, that relationship wasn't going very well, and the reason for that was because I had got that small that it didn't find me attractive anymore, because I got that small. And
which I was extremely annoyed about, and we used to have many conversations about it, because no one should make you feel like that. But
so obviously that completely, and obviously, like, looking back, like, obviously it must have been very hard to deal with because I couldn't see it at the time. But then that really made me think, okay, then fine, I'm gonna, because before I struggled with like getting too small, I did obviously go to the gym and I gained muscle, and I had glutes, and I had muscle and stuff like that. I didn't see it at the time, again, because I was struggling with the binge eating. But when I got too small, I really did lose all of my muscle, and I didn't feel sexy at all. I can't lie. Like, you think that being skinny, you're going to feel good, but I didn't. Like, I felt awful, and I covered myself up more. Like, I would wear tracksuit bottoms all the time. It's more my legs. Like, my legs got so small, and my thing was my glutes. Like, I've always had good glutes, and that's what I mean. And it's not a good thing really, but everyone knew me for my glutes. I completely lost that, like, doing all that HIIT and all that not eating. I lost all of my muscle, and I didn't look strong anymore. Like, I wasn't the strong person in the gym. I remember when I went back to the gym, and everyone was like, whoa, what happened to you? Like, you used to be the strong girl in the gym, and now I'm literally nothing. And yeah, when the person I was with like said, look, you've got too skinny, I was like, okay, then I'm going to grow my glutes back. And I know, like, obviously people don't think that it's a wrong thing as a way to recover, but it really helped me think, right, I'm going to grow my glutes. That goal drove me to recovery. And I know that, it's controversial. I've always had this online where it's like, you're not allowed to have a goal. You're not allowed to have a physique goal when you're trying to recover. But in that way, that is what made me recover, because to get glutes and to grow muscle, I knew I had to eat more, and that's what helps me. Like, and I went through a reverse diet, which is where you slowly increase your calories through time. So I didn't want to take the extreme and do that all or not. What's that thing called? Like,
when you go all in, yeah.
I could not physically do that. That was just too overwhelming. Like, I was too scared to eat 10 calories more at the start. So there's no way I could go from having this structure and strictness to then be like, I'm just going to eat. I couldn't do that. So I went on a reverse diet. So I was working with a coach at the time, and she was slowly increasing my calories each week. And another thing that obviously is very controversial, but learning about food and what's in food helped me as well. Not necessarily tracking my calories, but being on a meal plan, that really helped me. And obviously slowly reverse dieting.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's controversial at all, because I think that a lot of people in recovery still need structure, because you've come from this place of being really regimental with your food. So having that structure and eating really regularly and often can give you that stability, can make you feel safe. And I think sometimes you do need to feel safe. And I give it to people that go all in, because I know that can be really beneficial for some people as well. But I completely
remember
get what you mean.
It was really hard for me, because obviously I was sharing my whole recovery on Instagram, and some people were like, oh, well, that's wrong. And it's like, no, because it's helped me. Like, I'm not saying for you to do this and it's going to help you, but I'm literally only sharing what's helping me. And I used to get, obviously, some people not agree, but for me, it's what helped, and I'm here now, and I'm in the best place possible. So, I know, there is a big, again, controversy over tracking calories, but personally, when I was going through reverse dieting and I was tracking, it helped. I feel like when people go wrong with their calories and stuff is when they restrict themselves or they get obsessed. And I think when you do that, then you need to take a break. But to me, it really did help me.
And I think it is. We've had so many debates about this, and we are on very different pages. But I think what works for you, if that worked for you, then amazing. And I think it is true. There can be two sides of the story. People can feel that tracking calories got too obsessive, and it's what led them to maybe start binge eating, whereas maybe because you said you didn't used to do that when you were binging.
So I never tracked when I was binging, so that's not what the trigger was for me.
So that's maybe why it does work. And I think we're not saying, for anyone out there, if you feel that tracking, like Abby's just said, if you feel like tracking calories for you doesn't work and you want to step away, then 100%. But we're giving it from Abby's perspective in a sense of it helped her, because I feel like for me, you are a very structured person, and I feel like you've got so much more freedom now of your food. I know that then you did always kind of eat the same thing all the time. You like what you liked, so it's what worked for you.
I do think as well, like I said, I didn't know anything about food. Then when I was struggling with binge eating, I didn't obviously track. And again, it wasn't a trigger for me. And I didn't even track throughout my whole binge eating recovery. That wasn't when I started tracking either. It was only literally when I started reverse dieting. So when I was my smallest and having that fear of weight gain. And I think that is the biggest fear that I had, the weight gain. And I know obviously people that don't understand that fear. It's a horrible fear to have, and I feel like having that fear and living with that fear is actually worse than going through the fear, just going through it and just facing the fear. So when I was slowly increasing my calories, I was noticing so many positives, like, oh my god, I'm getting stronger, I'm actually eating more, I'm gaining weight, but I felt so much better in myself, and I was gaining my glutes back, and I was like, I actually just want to look strong. I don't want to look skinny anymore. And I just kept going with it. And I do think that it takes such a long time. Even now, I would say I'm about 95% in my relationship with food, but there's still tiny little things in my head that I have to,
I think it's really important to be honest. And we always have really open, honest discussions about it's always a work in progress. I feel like, you're going to have times when we're humans, you're going to have times where you still have to deal with that relationship with food, or something happens and it's sort of, I don't know, it takes you by surprise, and it's like, okay, I've got to work through that now. And I think it is important to be honest about that, because we're in such a better place. You're in such a better place than you were, massively different, but it's important to still keep the reality of the situation that, sometimes you are still going to struggle.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, what I find important to share to people is that you don't have to give up on your fitness goals or to recover either. I feel like a lot of people think people find to go to recover so scary is because people make it scary because they're like, oh, you can't have a goal, you can't be into the gym, but you really can, like. And I think that's why I like to share my story, because people can see that I still have a goal and I can still recover at the same time. It's just about doing it in the right way and having a good mindset.
And do you feel like, because it's a hard one, isn't it? Because you can, like you say, you can still have a goal, you can still have a passion. Your gym, if gym is your passion, that can still be it. But do you think that instead of focusing on what you look like, it's focusing more on how it makes you feel, or
100%
gaining strength?
Yeah, definitely. It's like the performance, and like I remember when I was going through with the reverse diet, it was like getting stronger and like being able to like shoulder press more. I feel like when you're going through it, you don't really think about your body, you're thinking about, you know, your performance in the gym, and you're actually happier. And 100%.
Yeah, and definitely, because I know that, you know, for some of you listeners out there, the gym may not be your thing, but I know for you, the gym has always been a massive part of your life. So that isn't just going to go, you know. And I think everyone is on their different journeys. And like, that brings me to my next question is, I know the answer to this question already, but have you ever found the balance between fitness and helping to give advice on recovery difficult? Because I can imagine that sometimes you found it quite conflicting, because sharing your fitness journey or sharing pictures of you in the gym and then pairing that side by side with recovery, I can imagine that it's difficult to know what avenue to go down, kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's been a big hard thing for me that I've had to struggle with as well, is because, you know, I'm still that girl that loves fitness and the gym, and it's like I felt like I wasn't allowed to do both. I wasn't allowed to be in recovery and share the fact that I was into the gym, because when I would share the fact that I was in the gym, people would be like, well, you still got an eating disorder because you're in the gym. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't get that. Just because I still like to have structure, it doesn't mean I've got an eating disorder. Just because I have a goal, and just because I have this certain goal at that time, it doesn't mean I've got an eating disorder. It's just like, otherwise everyone has an eating disorder. Then you haven't, like, do you know what I mean? So that's what I've struggled with a lot on Instagram. Like, I've had honestly, the amount of people is just amazing to me. Like, it's just the best thing in the world to know that I've helped people just by sharing my story and just by being brutally raw and honest with my whole journey and everything. So that is literally the biggest thing that's like helped me, is just knowing that I've helped others. But it has been hard to be able to balance recovery and the fact that I'm into the gym and stuff, because I feel like people just thought that I wasn't allowed, or like, oh no, it's wrong of you to share the fact that you're into fitness. And it's like, but this is me, this is who I am. I'm not going to not share what I'm doing.
And I can understand, because we put sort of that sort of gym lifestyle, and I think even more so because you are on social media, and if you weren't, it's like everyone can see what you're doing all of the time. So it's almost like your people's opinions, you're going to hear them more than someone that's not on Instagram and loves to go to the gym or loves fitness. So I can understand how it'd be quite difficult, because it's like the gym is almost seen as a place where eating disorders can almost form, because people can become obsessed with the gym. It's a really difficult one. And I mean, I know that we could go so much more in depth with it, but I know that you have struggled with that, and that's kind of why I wanted to ask. But I just think it's such an interesting thing.
I think the most important thing is making sure you're in control of it, rather than in it taking over control for you. So I'm in control of my gym now. I'm in control of my food, and I don't let it control me. And like, I'm so much more balanced now, whereas before it's like, if I miss the gym, that'd be the end of the world. But now it's like, if I miss one day at the gym, it's fine.
And that's so nice to hear.
Like that. And like things like, if I miss a meal, or if I have to replace a meal with something, like I can do that. It's balanced. So that's what's the important thing. It's not about getting rid of it altogether and saying you can't do that. It's learning how to do it in the right way with the right mindset. That's what I always say. Just having the right mindset with it.
Definitely. It is so nice, because I do feel like I have seen a change in you for sure, because I think
know this year is the biggest, like the most I've my relationship with food is probably the best, especially since having another coach. Like,
yeah. And I feel like that's done really well for you as well, because I think your lifestyle is very different from mine, because I've been on one meal plan before, but your life is fitness, so it's kind of like, it's so different from the way that I live. But you found that having this structure and having this coach and him, educating you about food has helped you, whereas I know for some people being educated about food can make them go the other way. But I think you're very lucky.
The beauty of it all, isn't it? Like, that's the beauty of everything, is like not
everyone's going to be the same.
Yeah, and it's good to be able to show that we're like really good friends, and we both live different lives, but both have recovered in a different way, and that's the whole point of it all.
It's what works for you, 100%.
Yeah.
And my next question is, which I'm still so shocked about, I have known you since I've met you to be vegan.
Yeah.
You eat meat now.
I know.
Like, it's actually mad. And
I know.
When I saw that you had, I was like, never in my life, because I felt like your identity was being a vegan. But have you found that now not being a vegan has given you more food freedom?
Yeah, like massively. Like, I don't know why I was still, I call myself plant-based because, I wasn't vegan, because obviously vegan is more like, for like animals and things, but obviously you can't just not be vegan anymore. So I like plant-based. I don't know why I kept it going for so long, but when I come back from Turkey, like when I went away on holiday, like how restricted I was on holiday, I'm thinking, I do not want to be like that anymore. Like, I don't want to go on holiday and eat salad. Like, I want to experience it all. I'd watch these programs with my boyfriend and I'd look at all this food and I think, I can't even add any of that. And I didn't go vegan. I went vegan for all the wrong reasons. I went like vegan because of the, thinking I can lose weight. So in my brain, I'm like, well, what am I actually doing? Like, why am I still eating like this when I could actually, have a bit more freedom? And again, like, obviously, like, like being to the gym and training, it's like, oh my God, it's going to be so much easier for me to get more protein, and I'll be able to be a bit more flexible, and I won't be stressing out about getting protein. Because obviously, don't get me wrong, like, you can get protein on a plant-based diet. Like, I've proven that you can. It's just a lot harder, especially when you don't like mock meats, because I didn't. It's just, you have to be so much more aware of protein. But now it's like, now I'm eating like meat and animal products, it's just so much more freeing, because I can eat so much more, and like going out to eat is so much better because you're not restricted. Like the vegan options in a restaurant, yes, they're much better. There's so much more vegan options nowadays, but it's not the same as, going to a restaurant and you can literally have whatever you want. And that's scary, and don't get me wrong, and that's another thing. It's like, I'm open to so much more, especially coming up to Christmas. Like, I can have celebrations now, and the fact that I can actually go for a celebration is weird to me, because it's like, before it's like it's a no, but now it's like, actually I can have a celebration if I want one.
It's going to be, honestly, like, I'm still so shocked.
Turkey, like, it'll be my first Christmas dinner.
First Christmas dinner with turkey. But like, this isn't anyone out there that's vegan. We're not like slating being vegan at all. No, 100%. But you're like, you've just said there, you went vegan for a reason, that was to lose weight. So I think it's amazing that you now have found so much food freedom from stepping away from that. And it's so exciting, because I see that you have found so much more food freedom, and it is the fact of being able to go out for dinner, being able to have such more of a variety to eat, and that's pushing yourself, and that's stepping out of your comfort zone. And I think that's amazing. So that was just hearing your whole journey again, because even though we speak all the time, like, I think me hearing it, like, there's parts that I haven't heard you talk about before. So I'm just so happy for you finding more food freedom, because and I've said to you a million times, like, I know the place that you're in, and I was just like, I just want you to find freedom just to be able to experience more life. And I feel like you have.
I definitely have. Like, even for instance, like yesterday, I went to Five Guys. No way would I ever have a Five Guys, but I had a Five Guys yesterday, and I did, and I'm not feeling guilty today. I feel fine. Like, and I'm eating the same as what I normally do today. But, before it'd be like Five Guys, oh, that's restricted today, or I can't have Five Guys. But I know that that's not going to cause me any harm, and it was really good as well.
Yeah.
I still need to try sushi.
I know, that's what we need to do. We always talk about it, don't we? I've never had Five Guys, sorry,
Oh
but
my God.
I
Five Guys
know,
is amazing. So
I
good.
know, I really need to. But
Oh, it's good.
the last question I want to ask is, can you sum up in 3 words what recovery has given you?
So the 3 things, obviously, one being freedom. That was a big one. Happiness, freedom, happiness, and confidence, I would say. I'm so much more confident in myself.
I love that.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, so much more confident. You grow through it, and I feel like you get more confident. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. I love that. Like all 3 of those things. I think what you explained is so important because you've gone through a journey of recovering from binge eating disorder and then restricting to a point of gaining this body that you so wanted and realizing that that didn't give you happiness and it
No.
actually gave you less confidence, and now to where you are now.
Yeah.
And you have literally, I've seen that you've gained so much more confidence, and I think, yeah, I loved all those 3 things. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and being so open and honest, because I know sometimes it's not easy and it's like you're having to relive a hard time that you've been through. So yeah, I just appreciate it, and it was so beautiful having you on the podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, I did. It was very good. It was very good.
Oh, amazing. And thank you to all you listeners as well. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. We appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to listen. And as always, please contact us with any questions, any topic suggestions. We love hearing your feedback. But yes, speak to you all next time. Bye, my darling, and bye, guys.
Bye.